In the US, we complain about mystery meat and soggy cafeteria pizza. We grew up on brown paper bags filled with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, Lunchables, and maybe a tiny carton of chocolate milk if we were lucky. But nothing could have prepared me for the day I walked into a British school dining hall and saw a child eating a giant Yorkshire pudding stuffed with sausages, swimming in dark brown gravy, followed immediately by a bowl of bright neon pink custard. I was literally shocked. I have been living in the UK for a couple of years now, and I am constantly baffled and amazed by how different the culture is over here. And one of the biggest cultural divides I have discovered is the legendary British school dinner. Notice I said dinner, not lunch. In America, we eat lunch at noon. In the UK, especially in working class and northern areas, the midday meal is traditionally called dinner. And the women who serve it are not cafeteria workers, they are dinner ladies. They wear tabards, they call you Chuck or Pet or Darling, and they rule the dining hall with an iron fist and a giant ladle. We need to talk about this because the food these kids grew up eating is absolutely wild to an American mind. It is a mix of post-war rationing survival tactics, pure unadulterated comfort food, and some of the most bizarre culinary combinations you will ever see. So today, I am breaking down 20 British school dinners that Americans have never had, and we are starting with a national tragedy. Number 1. Turkey Twizzlers. If you want to see a grown British adult get genuinely emotional, just mention turkey Twizzlers. Before 2005, these were the absolute king of the British school dinner. They were these weird corkscrew-shaped spirals of processed turkey meat, covered in a sweet, sticky, savory glaze. They looked like DNA strands made of junk food. Kids were obsessed with them. But then, a famous British chef named Jamie Oliver launched a massive television campaign to make school food healthier. He exposed how heavily processed the Twizzlers were, and he got them completely banned from schools. To this day, there is an entire generation of British millennials who hold a deep, burning grudge against Jamie Oliver for taking away their beloved Twizzlers. In the US, our celebrity chefs teach us how to cook. In the UK, they take away your favorite childhood food on national television. Number 2 is toad in the hole. When my British friends first told me they ate toad in the hole at school, I was horrified. I thought it was some kind of strange medieval swamp food. But here is the truth. It is actually genius. It is sausages baked into a massive fluffy Yorkshire pudding batter. For my Americans, imagine a giant savory popover or Dutch baby pancake, but filled with roasted pork sausages and drenched in onion gravy. It originated back in the 18th century as a way to stretch out expensive meat by wrapping it in cheap filling batter. It is warm, it is incredibly heavy, and it is the exact kind of food you need to survive a freezing damp British Tuesday in November. Number 3 is cheese flan. Now in America, when we hear the word flan, we think of a delicate sweet caramel custard dessert from Latin American cuisine. Not in Britain. A British school cheese flan is a thick, dense, savoury tart made of short crust pastry filled with a mixture of eggs, milk, and a massive amount of strong cheddar cheese. It is basically a very basic quiche, but the dinner ladies would bake it in these enormous rectangular metal trays and cut it into massive squares. You would get a giant slab of yellow cheese flan, usually served with baked beans poured right over the top. The pastry was always slightly soggy on the bottom, but the British kids absolutely loved it. Number 4. Potato smiles and turkey dinosaurs. While Jamie Oliver waged war on the Twizzler, the turkey dinosaur somehow survived the extinction event. This is the holy trinity of the frozen British school dinner. You get breaded turkey, shaped like a stegosaurus, served alongside circular mashed potato patties that have creepy little smiley faces cut into them. It is essentially freezer tapas. In the US, we would never consider pairing a dinosaur-shaped meat product with a smiling potato disc and a puddle of baked beans. But in the UK, this combination is basically considered a cultural heritage site. Number 5 is mince and tatties. This one is heavily featured in Scottish and Northern English schools. Mince and tatties literally just translates to minced beef and potatoes. But it is not a hamburger patty. It is ground beef cooked down in a rich dark gravy with onions and carrots, served over a massive mound of buttery mashed potatoes. It is not pretty to look at. It looks like a brown puddle on a plate, but the history here is fascinating. This dish was a staple during the World War II rationing era because it required very little meat to feed a lot of people. The gravy and the potatoes did all the heavy lifting. It is pure, unpretentious comfort food. Quick thing before we get to the absolute carb loading madness of the next few items on this list. The data on this channel shows that over 80% of you watching right now are not subscribed. That means you are showing up for the content, you are enjoying the culture shock, but the algorithm has no reason to show you the next video. Hit subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Number 6 is macaroni cheese, served with chips. This was the moment my American brain completely short-circuited. In the US, macaroni and cheese is a side dish. Maybe you have it next to some fried chicken or ribs. In the UK, macaroni cheese is the main event, but they do not serve it with a side vegetable. They serve it with chips. And when I say chips, I mean thick-cut British French fries. Yes, they serve a massive scoop of pasta in cheese sauce, alongside a massive pile of fried potatoes. It is carb-on-carb violence. The British have this incredible historical relationship with potatoes and carbohydrates, mostly because they needed cheap, high-energy food for manual labor during the Industrial Revolution. That tradition just bled right into the school system, resulting in children eating pasta and fries on the same plate. Number 7 is the school rectangle pizza. We had rectangular pizza in American schools too, but the British version is a totally different beast. The base wasn't really pizza dough. It was more like a thick, spongy bread. The tomato sauce was weirdly sweet, almost like ketchup, and the cheese was this mysterious blend that never quite melted properly. But the craziest part is what they served it with. If you got a slice of pizza at a British school, it was almost legally required to be served with half a can of sweet corn and a scoop of baked beans. Pizza and beans. I can hear Italian grandmothers crying from here. Number 8 is the jacket potato with beans and cheese. The jacket potato is just a baked potato, but the British elevate it to an art form. The skin is rubbed with salt and baked until it is shatteringly crisp, while the inside is fluffy like a cloud. The dinner lady slices it open, absolutely drowns it in butter, and then covers it in hot baked beans and a mountain of grated cheddar cheese. You have to understand that British baked beans are not like American baked beans. Ours are sweet, smoky, and cooked with pork and molasses. British baked beans are vegetarian, swimming in a thin, savory tomato sauce. It is the ultimate safe food for picky eaters in the UK. Number 9 is sausage rolls with beans. Notice how often baked beans are showing up here? In Britain, baked beans are the glue that holds society together. A sausage roll is seasoned pork sausage meat, wrapped in flaky puff pastry, and baked until golden. You can buy them at any bakery in the country, but in schools, they serve a giant sausage roll on a plate, completely submerged in baked beans. The hot tomato sauce from the beans soaks into the bottom of the flaky pastry, creating this weirdly delicious textural nightmare. Number 10. Fish fingers, chips and mushy peas. This is the Friday special. Across the entire United Kingdom, Friday is Fish Day. This tradition dates back centuries to when the Catholic Church forbade eating warm-blooded meat on Fridays. Even though Britain is not a strictly Catholic country anymore, the cultural habit stuck. Every Friday, British kids line up for rectangular breaded fish fingers, chunky chips, and mushy peas. Mushy peas are exactly what they sound like. They are marrow-fat peas that have been soaked and simmered until they collapse into a thick, bright green paste. It looks like alien sludge, but it tastes slightly sweet and pairs perfectly with the salty fish. Number 11 is chicken tikka masala. Yes, British schools serve curry. In fact, chicken tikka masala is widely considered the national dish of Great Britain. It was reportedly invented in Glasgow, Scotland by a Bangladeshi chef who improvised a mild, creamy tomato and yogurt sauce for a customer who complained his chicken was too dry. It is a beautiful reflection of Britain's multicultural history, and serving it in schools with a scoop of fluffy rice and a piece of naan bread is a staple of the modern British school dinner. Number 12 is the school roast dinner. Once a week, usually on a Wednesday or Thursday, the dinner ladies pull out all the stops. We are talking slices of roast beef or chicken, roast potatoes, carrots, peas, a giant Yorkshire pudding, and enough gravy to float a small boat. The roast dinner is the cornerstone of British culinary identity. It represents family, warmth, and coming together. Having a miniature version of it, served in a chaotic school cafeteria, is a core memory for almost every British person I have spoken to. Also, this is exactly the kind of thing I go much deeper on with the people who support this channel directly. So if you are sitting there thinking, okay, I need the fuller version of this story, join the membership below. That is where I share the deeper thoughts, the more personal side of all this cultural shock, and the extra bits I cannot always fit into the main videos. Now, we have to talk about the desserts, or as the British call them, puddings. This is where British school dinners ascend to a completely different dimension. The sheer amount of sugar, pastry, and hot custard involved is mind-blowing. Number 13 is the absolute king of school puddings, pink custard with chocolate sponge. If you want to see a 35-year-old British man stare off into the distance with pure nostalgia, just whisper the words pink custard. In America, custard is a thick, cold, egg-based dessert. In the UK, custard is served piping hot, poured out of a massive jug, and in schools, they made it bright, radioactive pink. Why was it pink? They used something called blancmange powder, which is a strawberry-flavored cornstarch mix, to thicken the milk. They would serve a square of dense, cocoa-rich chocolate sponge cake and absolutely drown it in this hot, sweet pink liquid. It is visually absurd, but honestly, it tastes like a warm hug. Number 14 is jam roly-poly. The name alone sounds like something out of a Harry Potter book or a Dickens novel. A jam roly-poly is a flat sheet of suet pudding dough spread generously with strawberry or raspberry jam, rolled up like a Swiss roll, and then steamed or baked. Now we need to talk about suet. In the US, we use butter or shortening for our baking. Traditional British puddings use suet, which is the hard raw fat found around the kidneys of cows or sheep. I know that sounds terrifying to an American palate, but when it is grated into flour, it creates a pastry that is incredibly light, spongy, and rich. You cut a thick slice of the jam roly-poly, and naturally you drown it in hot yellow custard. Number 15 is spotted dick. We cannot talk about British food without addressing this one. Yes, the name makes every American teenager giggle, but the dish itself is a serious piece of British culinary history dating back to the mid-19th century. The word dick was actually an old dialect term for pudding, and spotted refers to the raisins and currants studded throughout the dough. It is another steamed suet pudding, traditionally made with citrus zest and dried fruit. The dinner ladies would steam it in massive cylindrical basins, slice it thick, and serve it steaming hot. It is incredibly dense. Eating a slice of spotted dick will keep you full for about 3 days. Number 16 is the cornflake tart. This is a masterclass in making something incredible out of absolute poverty-era ingredients. After World War II, sugar and butter were rationed in the UK for years. People had to get creative. The cornflake tart is a short crust pastry shell spread with a thick layer of cheap strawberry jam and topped with a sticky, chewy mixture of breakfast cornflakes bound together with golden syrup. Golden syrup is a thick, amber-colored inverted sugar syrup that is a staple in every British kitchen. The tart is baked until the cornflakes get slightly toasted and caramelized. It is crunchy, chewy, sweet, and sticky all at the same time, and yes, they serve it with hot custard. Number 17 is the Manchester tart. Coming straight out of the north of England, the Manchester tart is a true school dinner classic. It is a pastry shell layered with raspberry jam, followed by a layer of sliced bananas, topped with a thick layer of set vanilla custard, and finally finished with a heavy sprinkling of desiccated coconut and a single maraschino cherry right in the middle. It has this weird, retro, tropical vibe to it. It became incredibly popular in schools in the 70s and 80s because bananas were cheap and custard was easy to make in massive bulk quantities. Number 18 is the Arctic roll. This one breaks the rule of hot custard. The Arctic roll is a British supermarket legend that made its way into schools. It is a cylinder of vanilla ice cream wrapped in a thin layer of raspberry jam, which is then wrapped in a light vanilla sponge cake. It was invented in the 1950s by a Czech refugee living in the UK, and by the 1980s, it was claimed that more than 25 miles of Arctic roll were being sold every single month. The dinner ladies would pull these out of the freezer, slice them into frozen rounds, and hand them out. The contrast of the freezing cold ice cream and the soft sponge cake was the ultimate Friday afternoon treat. If you are enjoying this deep dive into British culture, and you are as fascinated by these foods as I am, hype up this video by leaving a like and dropping a comment about your favorite childhood school lunch. Let me know if you would brave the pink custard or if you are sticking to your American peanut butter and jelly. Number 19 is Angel Delight. While Americans were obsessed with Jell-O pudding, the British had Angel Delight. This is a powdered dessert that you whisk with cold milk until it turns into a light, airy, whipped mousse. It was introduced in the late 60s and became a massive hit because it felt fancy but cost almost nothing to make. The butterscotch and strawberry flavors were the absolute favorites in schools. The dinner ladies would whisk up vats of this stuff, scoop it into little plastic bowls, and let it set in the fridge. It has this very distinct, slightly artificial, bubbly texture that instantly transports any British adult straight back to their childhood. And finally, number 20, the iced sponge tray bake, universally known simply as school cake. If you ask any British person what school dinner tasted like, they will probably describe this cake. It is the most deceptively simple dessert on the list. It is a basic, fluffy vanilla sponge cake, baked in a massive rectangular tray. But what makes it iconic is the topping. It is covered in a stark white, simple water icing made of just powdered sugar and water, and then aggressively showered with rainbow sprinkles, which the British call hundreds and thousands. There is nothing artisanal about school cake. The icing is borderline crunchy because it's set so hard, the sponge is often just slightly dry on the edges, but when you place a square of that iced sponge in a bowl and pour hot custard over it, the icing melts into the custard, the sponge soaks up the heat, and the sprinkles bleed their rainbow colours all over the bowl. It is the defining taste of a British childhood. Looking at this list of 20 meals, it tells you everything you need to know about British culture. In the US, our school lunches were built around speed and convenience. Handheld foods like pizza slices, corn dogs, and chicken nuggets, things you could eat quickly before running out to recess in the sunshine. But Britain is a cold, damp, rainy island for a large portion of the year. Their school dinners were not designed for speed, they were designed for warmth. They were designed to put a heavy, comforting weight in a child's stomach so they could face the freezing walk home in the dark winter afternoons. The suet puddings, the steaming gravies, the hot custard poured over everything, it was all a culinary survival mechanism disguised as comfort food. I was literally shocked when I first saw macaroni cheese served with a side of French fries. I could not understand why anyone would put baked beans on top of a pastry. But after living here and experiencing the sheer misery of a British Tuesday in November, I finally get it. When the sky is grey and the rain is sideways, you do not want a cold turkey sandwich. You want a massive Yorkshire pudding, and you want a giant square of sprinkle cake drowned in bright pink custard. It might not be the healthiest menu in the world, but from a psychological standpoint, it is absolutely brilliant. The British school dinner is an institution. It is a shared cultural trauma and a shared cultural joy. And while Jamie Oliver may have won the battle against the turkey Twizzler, he will never break the bond between a British child and a giant jug of hot custard.